One of my favorite things in life to do is fish. I can throw a cast net better than I can dance. And growing up on the north end of Longboat, when the Longboat Bridge was built, connecting Longboat Key with Anna Maria, we built a marina. So I also know how to bail a boat faster than anyone else. I know how to count out a dozen shrimp quickly. And the waters of Sarasota are so rich with fish and shrimp and stone crabs and clams. We lived off the richness of the sea growing up. I was a probation and parole worker. So as a probation and parole officer, you work with really crazy people, and you have to be a good motivator, communicator, listener. So what was the normal profession for me to go to? Real estate. Everyone's crazy. You need to motivate them, you need to communicate effectively, and you need to listen. Well, I came from a family of great entrepreneurs. So the belief that you could do anything in life you chose to do if you were prepared to pay the price was something I grew up with. I wanted to be an attorney, but in those days they didn't give women fellowships to go to law school. So I had a full scholarship, but no fellowships. So they said we only give fellowships to people who are going to make a career of law. There have been many land booms in the history of Sarasota, beginning with John Gillespie in 1902, what he planned downtown. Fast forward to the 20s, huge land boom. And I really think that land boom created the modern city of Sarasota. Hospitals were needed, schools were needed, bonds were passed for roads and schools. So you don't really think about how infrastructure was done in the 20s, but that was the boon that really put Sarasota on the map as a modern city. There were other boons as you go forward. After World War II, there was a land boom. There were many pilots who practiced here for the Army Corps and flew out of Arcadia and MacDill and nearby cities, and they brought their families back here. So subdivisions were created, more family-oriented. That was another land boom. You can go on to the 90s, and then you can go on to the one in the early 2000s. That was one that created a bubble, because in those days, no job, no credit, no money, no problem you can buy. The significance of the early leaders in Sarasota being involved in the land business, there were not many other businesses to be in. So you had to get the people here in order to build the houses, in order to have the population to support other businesses like restaurants and retail. So therefore, many of the early leaders in Sarasota were in the land development and real estate related fields. The first land developers in this area saw 1, the beauty, 2, the potential, 3, the opportunity, and 4, they saw wealth in the land. Well, I think when you look at land development, whether it was years ago or today, there are many things that go very right and there are many things that go very wrong. In the very early days, in the 20s, when there was a huge boom, there was talk about flipping properties, which fast forward to 2004, 5, 6, flipping properties became a problem. Flipping properties was a problem in the 20s. There are always unscrupulous people in every business. In real estate, over the years, there have been some. In the 20s, real estate agents were called binder boys. The binder boys of the 20s were the first real estate agents, and not ones to be proud of or to look up to. Their interest was lining their pockets. They cared less about the consumer. The most recent land boom is what we call the COVID land boom. When COVID began penetrating cities and all over the country, people were looking for open space, outdoor space, a place to be safe, a place that they could come with their families. And that created a huge land boom in this area. As children, Mother and Daddy would take us to meet the circus train when it came into Venice. So that was an exciting time. There were so many exciting things like that. The filming of The Greatest Show on Earth, when it premiered, all of that. But there have been many movies that have been shot here. And in fact, we're trying to grow the film industry here today. But really, those things didn't matter to my parents as much as finding the most beautiful conch without a living animal in it, looking at the most incredible sunset, lying on your back in the sand and looking at the clouds and finding shapes, painting rocks when the weather was bad. So those were the things that were really exciting in my family, not the celebrities who came to town. I can remember downtown Sarasota. I love Smack's Drive-In. I love the sports shop, which was at 5 Points, and we used to get a bathing suit every other year. So that was a big journey downtown to get a bathing suit at the sports shop, a hamburger at White Castle. So those were really fond memories. But I think my love of theater and my memory of the first Shakespeare play I ever saw was probably as a 7-year-old child at the original Oslo Theater with its heavy red velvet curtains. It was just amazing. I was in awe. So there were so many experiences that I had as a child growing up here that had I grown up somewhere else, I wouldn't have had those experiences that shaped me as a human being that Sarasota so richly offered. I didn't actually go to high school in Sarasota, so my memories of it is more of a vacationer who had a long love affair with every summer at the north end of Longboat, but we did venture into town. It was always considered a well-run town. There was an amazing town manager, Ken Thompson, who was truly left a mark positively. For 38 years, he ran the city. He integrated the library and he integrated the golf course when integration was not heard of in this community. He did so many positive things. So I only met him once in my life, but he was an amazing leader. That's the wonderful thing about Sarasota is the leadership. Without great leadership, you don't have a great community. Without great community, you don't thrive. I hope in the future people will look at things that are being done today. For instance, sprawling malls are no longer something that is successful. So it is now being looked at as a way to repurpose those large parcels of land that hold old malls for housing and for some mixed use retail. We're looking at mother-in-law suites being accessible and allowed on properties. We're looking at some places along the corridor that you can get increased density if you provide affordable, attainable housing in your mix of development. All those things, I think, are really positive and are addressing some of the great needs we have. So decisions that are made today will really have the greatest impact 20 years from now. There have been some amazing women who were leaders in Sarasota, and they have been inspirational to me. If you look at the visionary women who helped create and craft Sarasota, the ones who come to mind that I would love to have lunch with would be Bertha Palmer, socialite, philanthropist from Chicago, bought 80,000 acres and became a farmer, if you will. Marie Selby with her husband, Bill, adventuresome, first woman to cross the country in a vehicle, in a car. I would love her vision of what she thinks of Selby today. I think she'd be very proud. Emma Booker, who came in 1914 and headed the first African-American school. Mabel Ringling, who was really the guiding force behind John Ringling. She helped start the garden club in Sarasota. Just so many amazing women. And I would have lunch with them on a magic carpet. where I could fly them over Sarasota and let them see what has happened to the place that they loved and were so passionate about. Sarasota has amazing leaders, but what makes me so proud is the amazing women leaders that we have in every aspect of life here: education, the medical field, the arts, the community foundations. I could go on and on and on. So women have played an important part in the past history, and they play a part today in the future of Sarasota. Affordable housing is really a serious issue in Sarasota and the surrounding communities today. We have been so attractive to so many who demand services. And for those who deliver the service, they need reasonably priced rentals, and their dream is still to buy. But because of the COVID run up in prices, rents are high, prices are high, and it's driven those workers who do, and I'm not just talking about people in the hospitality business, they're teachers, nurses who need a place that is affordable to live, raise their family, and be close to their place of employment. The additional problem is we have a miserable public transportation system. So therefore, in other major cities where people have to commute for a job, they jump on public transportation. We don't have that here. So we really need to address affordable housing. I believe it needs to be a public-private community foundation joint effort to solve the problem. Land is too valuable, so developers don't want to build affordable, attainable housing when they can build market price housing unless they're forced to. So I think you're seeing the government pass regulations that are forcing developers to include attainable, affordable housing in the communities they're designing. Well, when you look at where workers are now living, which is being pushed far, far north, Manatee County, far, far south, Charlotte County into Lee County, and commuting, you need transportation, whether it's express buses. I'm not asking for a railroad, but some sensible collaboration in terms of getting buses that you can quickly transfer and get to your place of employment more easily. More incentives to carpool. I know the city of Sarasota is trying a new scooter bicycle program. We'll see how that works to get around within the city. But I do believe it's getting people who can't afford to live in the city through good, reliable public transportation to their job sites without it taking them hours. What makes a community thrive is a balance. For so long, Sarasota depended only on tourism. We have done a very good job of balancing that by attracting clean industries, corporate headquarters of small companies, having the best hospital and leading physicians that are drawn here to live. Truly, if you put our 4 colleges together, we'd be a university town. So you need that for a thriving community. I think you need people with a heart and soul and a generous spirit and a generous wallet to create something that is good for everyone. I think the word community means that people come together. They may not always agree with each other, but they can come together with a civil debate about how to make something better. And Sarasota is at its best when people can come together over a topic where they can have open conversations of different views and come to a consensus that makes us a better place to live. I think the change is one of the most positive things in life. So when I hear people say, oh, I want Sarasota the way it used to be. Well, guess what? Before they moved here, the generation before them said, I don't want change. I don't want any new people. So it is part of the growth of a community. If we are changing in positive ways, if we're creating wonderful public spaces like the Bay for people to come together, convene, talk to each other, get to know each other, that is free for everyone. Change is inevitable. It's our responsibility to leave this place better than we found it.